Hello, everybody. Hope you can see us and hear us okay.
Yeah, so he moves those things
What?
away from me.
Oh, well, because I'm more important than you are. There. Well, wearing one of your shirts. You just want to show off.
No, I just run out. I don't have too many long sleeve shirts.
Oh,
And one
why
that
you
I don't really
cold?
fit into it.
Well, you cold too.
It's still cold out.
Yeah, whatever. Okay, let's see who is here. Let's see. Nancy is here. She's early today. Yay. Cheryl is here. Barb is here. Marianne. Lydia is here. Jean Brittenham at Kept in Stitches. Well, finally made it to your live instead of replay. Good afternoon. Hi, Jean. Glad you're able to make it. Sue is here. Nancy says 50 degrees here today after a jaw-dropping blizzard 2 nights ago with tree limb down all over.
Uh-oh.
Not good. Nellie Franco's here. Patsy's here. Derek is here.
Oops.
Oh, shit. What's going on here? I'm losing my screens. Okay. Where'd that come from? Go away. Why does this thing do things? Oh, now I've got it over here. Let's
Because
bounce it
you
back here.
don't know how to use it.
I do know how to use it. I'm trying to figure out how to get rid of this off the screen. Oh. Geez, why
You keep clicking off of it, and that's what it's doing.
Well, I don't want that. Oh, okay. There. I don't want that either. Okay, there we go. I think I got it now.
No, you got to go to channel at the bottom here now.
Well, how do I get...
It's when you click on that stupid Nightbot thing.
No, it's when I click on anybody. Here, go click down here. There we go. Okay, got it now. Jeez. Okay, so what was I
Old
saying?
people and technology.
Oh, screw off. You're such an expert. Why don't you do it? Donna's here. Hi, Donna. Jeffrey Horn is here. Glenna is here. Beautiful O'Fallon, Missouri. 70 degrees F. Marilyn is here. Volutus 202 is here. Nancy likes your shirt, Walter.
Yeah, I wear it once in a while.
Billy's here. Hi, Billy. Yeah, well, you've worn it on here before.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, but then again, they're so memorable. Yeah. Didn't bring down the one you're working on show?
No.
My marijuana shirt?
No.
Yeah, Walter's working on a marijuana shirt for me. I got some marijuana fabric. Well, we showed it the other day on So Chatty, I think, that we picked up. I thought it was very colorful, and I quite like it. Hi, Jan. So, anyways, I take it that everybody can hear us. Okay, so got all 3 printers behind me running away with things. I just got a new light for one of the printers, and just before we went to air, I had to install it. It's a strip light. My other light that I was using under my 3D printers are actually sewing machine LEDs, and they were expensive. They're like $50 a pop, and I've been through 2 of them now. They get to the point where the terminal endings on them just kind of drop off, and they could be soldered if I had a really small soldering iron with it, but I'm afraid that I'd solder like everything else over the circuit board. So I went looking earlier today to see if I could find some strip lighting. I knew they had them, and I found this one for $15 on Amazon. It had good reviews, and it didn't look too difficult to install. I had to yank out my power box that's attached to the underside of the 3D printer and hook it all in and put that together, but I've kind of done that before, so it wasn't that difficult. But I wasn't too impressed with how bright the light was. It just didn't seem to... Everybody said it was really bright light, and I thought, I don't know, it's not that bright. Well, then I figured out that I had put it in the wrong way. I had half of the light covered up by the railing. When I repositioned it, yeah, it's not bad. It's actually pretty good. So I might buy another couple of them and replace all these other ones with that, because they'll eventually go too, but we'll wait and see. Anyways, it's technology. Hello, Diana. Did we say hello to Barb? Hello, Barb. Ron is here. Hi, Ron. Nancy loves the weed fabric. Yeah, it's fun. Okay, so what have I been working on? Well, if you were with me yesterday for Pop-Up Sew Day, and yes, I made the announcement for the Pop-Up Sew Day very last minute. I sent out an email to everybody on the mailing list that I was going to have that at about 10 to 8 yesterday morning. Now, I have told you before that usually Pop-Up Sew Days, you never know when they're going to be. But usually I can give you at least 24 hours notice. Well, I wasn't planning on doing a Pop-Up Sew Day yesterday. But I got downstairs here at about 6:30, quarter to 7, and looked outside, and it was miserable out. And of course, Walter doesn't get out of bed until noon. So, and I went on to Sean, the guy who sews, YouTube channel, because he always does a live with a special guest every Saturday morning at 8. And I usually like to join in on that. But this week he had some other plans, so he had pre-recorded what he was going to show, or with guests that he had, and he did it as a premiere, but he wasn't going to be actually even in the chat. And to be honest, it kind of lacks something when it's not live. It's just like, well, okay, I can watch this anytime, kind of a thing. So I thought, well, what the heck, let's see if other people are around. Well, yeah, there were a few people around for the pop-up sew, so that's what we did yesterday. So if you
did clear up and got really nice.
Yeah, it did. It got really nice yesterday. It went up to what, 14?
Yeah.
See? Yeah, so it was really nice, but not that we were going anywhere or doing anything. So I got a lot done. And one of the things I was working on, and I'm going to talk more about this on Idiot Quilter this week, but I'll just show you the blocks. It's a log cabin, but it's a variation on a log cabin. It's a log cabin with a maple leaf. And it's actually a new pattern design by Chelsea Stratton of the Quilting Life. She and her mother do a show twice a month, usually every other Monday on YouTube. And they also design fabric and they design patterns. I'm not that thrilled with their fabric, and this is not their fabric. This is my choice. But when I saw the maple leaf on it, I thought, ooh, Canada Day. Quilt. So you can see up in the top left corner, that's what one of the completed blocks looks like. And I'm working on the other blocks right now. Had to go out and get some more O Canada from Northcott fabric for this. And I think I'll make a really neat Canada Day quilt when I get it done. And I'm also working on, and I don't have any pictures of it, I'm working on Stephanie Stitch's all-star quilt that she's been doing as a weekly sew-along kind of a thing on Saturday afternoons. And I really like that design, and there's 10 different star blocks in that, and I've got half of them done. So I've got another 5 to go, which means another 10 blocks, because you make 2 blocks the same, 2 stars the same for the quilt. So I'm working on 2 quilts at once. Now, what's Walter working on, you may want to know? My shirt.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
I didn't bring it down.
No. There's not much to see of it yet.
Are those lights supposed to be on?
What lights? Oh, yeah. Push the button. There's a button over there. Push the button.
Which button?
The button in the middle. There we go. Shed a little light on it. Don't know if it did much, but anyways, yeah. So what you're saying about your shirt?
Yeah, I'm working on it. I got the button bands done, and I've got the pocket on. I'm working on. I'm working on the yoke right now.
So you had enough fabric to do the invisible pocket?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay, good. You have to cut into my wad of that fabric then. What are people saying here?
That particular pattern though is a fabric waster, because the repeat isn't that. I only had one repeat to do the pocket for. Yeah.
Oh well, can't be chooser. Oh, Ron says Walter is so dreamy. Oh, stop it, Ron. Let's see, what else are people saying? Barb says it's 12 degrees in Calgary yesterday.
Yeah, it was 14 yesterday here, and that's only about 2 degrees now.
Yep.
So like a wide fluctuation in temperature.
Rob is here from Quilting in the Man Cave. Derek says those log cabin maple leaf blocks are lovely. Yeah, I thought it was kind of like she did it in different colors, you know, the kind of thing. But as soon as I saw the maple leaves, I'm always attracted to stars and maple leaves in quilts. And so, yeah, and I always like to make every year at least one sort of Canadian themed quilt. So this will be that one for this year, or at least so far.
There's always one in the crowd.
Debbie's here.
Who makes the weed fabric? I forget the name.
Oh, I don't know. It's no, I can't find. I can't get it because I've got the design wall up out of it. I don't know who makes that. I didn't look.
I looked at it, but I couldn't remember now.
It wasn't QT, was it?
Yeah, it was.
QT Fabrics?
Yeah.
QT Fabrics. QT, as in the letter Q, letter T, Fabrics. That's who makes that. They make a lot of very novelty kinds of fabrics, I think. I've had a few of theirs before. So, I'm just looking here what people are saying. Who makes snowing in Regina? Dana says, hi, Dana. Hi, Kathy. I don't think I said hi to Kathy either. And I think I said hi to Debbie, didn't I? Yep. And Persetta is here. Hello, Persetta. So anyways, yeah, that's what we've been working on. And I've put my color splash quilt on Lucey this afternoon, but I haven't done any quilting in it yet, but she's all ready to go. Scrunchions is here. Hello, Janet Lloyd is here. Yeah, a little late, but not that late, Janet. What are you looking at?
I was just looking to see who QT Fabrics, what they did.
Well, QT Fabrics is just QT Fabrics, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're a company unto their own, I think. So, what else? Oh, yeah. Okay, so I talked about the pop-up sew day, which was as much of a surprise to me as it was to any of you that came to it. Jan, is Jan in the background? I haven't seen her pop up in the chat yet, but she and Lydia's here, are pushing for next Saturday for a pop-up sew day. Not really sure. You know, distance makes the heart grow fonder. You know, if you do it all the time, then people get bored. I mean, I like to keep you wanting more, kind of a thing. So maybe there will be, maybe there won't be. We'll have to wait and see. If you're on the mailing list, you'll know when I send that out. If you're not on the mailing list, you may never know. So that's incentive for you to get on my mailing list. Just send me your name and your email address to my email address and tell me you want to be on the mailing list and I'll put you on. Yeah, Lydia, you're an enabler. Lucy's here. Hello, Lucy and Julie. Lucy says, we've got family around for Easter from Canada and Germany. Oh, okay. Patsy, that may be their full name. QT Fabrics, and maybe that's what they are at. Maybe that they have a full name. I don't know. I've only ever seen it printed as QT, but you could be right. It would make sense. Jeannie's here from PA. Jenny. Oh, why do I have trouble with that name? I don't know why. Nadine is here from France. Bonjour, Nadine. Ron says you don't want to be a pushover. Yeah, I know, but Ron, you know how well that's working. Lucy says, I'll get on your mailing list when I'm moved, if I may, please. Sure, Lucy. Anytime you want. Lydia says, you'll miss us too much if you don't have another pop-up before you leave for vacay. Yeah, well, I don't know. But speaking of vacay, one person who is a regular subscriber, thank you, or at least she says she's been watching the videos, but she doesn't usually partake in the chat. She sent me a very detailed email message talking about, because she lives out in BC, talking about various quilt shops and whatnot. But one scary thing she talked about was she'd heard us talk about the fact that we've already booked the ferry to Victoria. And she says that they have a tendency, they're like the airlines, to cancel. Even though you've got a reservation and everything for it. Because they sometimes don't have enough staff. which seems to be the war cry these days about a lot of things, doesn't
I
it?
noticed I went on the website today and there were a number of possible cancellations for ferry routes that we weren't on.
Oh, okay. Well, let's keep our fingers crossed, because have we paid for those ferries yet?
Yeah.
Well, of course, we'd get our money back, but that doesn't matter. We have the hotels booked.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no other way to get over to Victoria. You got to take the ferry. So, and the ferry is not, I think it's about 2 hours, isn't it?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, because I always thought it was like a hop, skip, and a jump. But that time we took it way back many years ago when we were there, it was like 2 hours.
It's 2 or 2.5 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, Mini Jimmy. Okay. I'm trying to remember that, but I probably won't. So I'll just change your name to Gladass. Anytime I can't pronounce somebody's name, I just call them Gladys. Yeah. Inez is here from NL, so that's the Netherlands.
Or is it Newfoundland?
Or is it Newfoundland? Inez, are you in Newfoundland or are you in the Netherlands? Yeah, Lucy, maybe. Hi, Shelly. So anyways, yep. So 2 weeks, well, 2 weeks from yesterday, we're supposed to fly out to
flying
Vancouver
on Saturday.
on the 15th of April. So,
yeah, they've already changed our plane 3 times
yeah.
on the way there. So I've had to rearrange our seating 3 times.
Yeah. Newfoundland. Okay. And, yeah, well, that's Air Canada. But you see what the problem is? Toronto International Airport, Pearson, as it's called, they decided, because of all the hubbub there was over peak traveling times, that and to cut down on all the inefficiencies and their lack of organization, that the smart thing would be to do was to limit the number of flights going out to any destinations each day. And I guess what? Air Canada had multiple flights every day to Vancouver from Toronto, and now they've reduced that number to...
Yeah, I noticed they used to, when I booked the flight, I had a lot more choices of times to leave than they have now. So they've cut out about 3 different flights in the morning to Vancouver.
Yeah. So every time they change the plane, the seats get changed too, and then they just throw you wherever. Then Walter has to go online and figure out where we're going to be sitting. And so...
Yeah, the last change, they had you way in the front of the plane on the window seat and me way at the back on an aisle seat.
They're idiots. They're just idiots. Shelley says, I saw the most hilarious short about Toronto Airport. Sounds like you're spot on. Oh, yeah. Toronto Airport, even before COVID and everything, was a disaster. I mean...
Yeah, you'd walk in there, and you could never figure out where you were going in the place. Like, you never knew where you had to go to book in. You'd walk from one end to the other, and then you'd ask somebody that worked there, and they wouldn't know where
They wouldn't have a clue. If you could find somebody that worked there, that was the other thing. And then they get all these automatic kiosks, for getting your boarding pass and to...
which half the time they don't work.
And there's nobody there to help you out. And people are standing there trying to figure out...
Or it doesn't read your passport.
Yeah, something like that. It is just a shit show. I'm telling you, it's an embarrassment.
Thank God we don't have to go through customs. So.
Oh, God. Yeah. So, if you're flying to Canada... and you're going to Toronto Pearson or to Toronto International Airport, you might want to skip over because, no guarantee of anything there. Shelley says it was total sarcasm about how bad it is. Well, it may have been sarcasm, but it was probably very accurate because it is. It is. Trust me, it is.
And then they don't have all these signs for where you're supposed to go, and they're all done in cursive writing, so none of the kids know.
No, none of the kids can read them. Yeah, they don't teach cursive anymore. So welcome to Toronto. Really not. Scrunchin says customs workers get mad at you when you tell them the kiosk doesn't work. Oh yeah, Because, instead of making it so people could understand how to use them and putting up like a sign or something explaining how to use it, they probably get asked all the time, and they're probably sick and tired of having to go over and try to explain it. And it's supposed to make your checking in so much more efficient. Not.
Yeah, like if you're looking for a specific airline counter, and half the time you can't figure out where it is.
Yeah, Inez. Yeah, you say nothing. You say nothing when you're in the airport or on the planes, because they'll just open a window and boot you out anymore.
Yeah, you gotta be careful.
Yeah.
We've seen people get kicked off an airline before.
Oh, yeah. Several times, actually. Lucy says Vancouver Airport was great. Well, we've been to Vancouver Airport a couple of times, and yeah, it seems to be fine. We've never had any problems with it. But it's typical. The city of Toronto, even though the city of Toronto are not running the airport, okay, it's just a reflection of how bad Toronto, the city, is. It is a shit show there too. The infrastructure is crumbling. They cried the blues that they're not getting any money from the federal government and the provincial governments. They have mismanaged their funds for so many years, and the idiots now they're having an election.
An election because the previous mayor had an affair with a secretary or something.
Yeah, so he resigned, and they've got everybody but their dog running for mayor. It is incredible.
And
the number of people.
The infrastructure in Toronto is crumbling, but they get massive amounts of taxes from all the condominiums that are downtown, and they don't provide services to them. But they, for some reason, they can't seem to manage their funds.
Yeah, it's just so bad down there. And it's never getting any better. And we got homeless everywhere down there, and they go in, and the cops go in and rip down their makeshift, tent villages or tent cities and stuff like that. Those people have nowhere to go. Oh, the city says, well, they have the shelters. But the problem is these people don't want to go to those shelters. Well, one, they may not be able to get in because the shelters only can hold so many, and it's not enough for the number of homeless there. And second of all, it's rough. Those people are getting beat up by other homeless people. They're getting what little they have stolen from them and the whole bit. I don't blame them. I wouldn't want to go in one of those either. It'd be probably better to lay on the grate of a subway thing, with it. And there's no need for it. And yet they talk about affordable housing in downtown Toronto. They have all these developers building condos, not affordable housing. Not. And does Toronto need more condos? No. Toronto does not. And they're all located in the dead center of the city. I mean, there was a time when you could actually see the lake when you were up on Yonge Street, which is the main drag in downtown Toronto. When you look south, you can't now. The condos block the whole view. You can't see it. Even the CN Tower is almost dwarfed by the new condos.
Yeah.
And they're putting up these ones that are skinny. And they're asking well over $1 million for something that's like a shoebox to live in, like under 600 square feet or smaller. Like, I know people who have walk-in closets in their houses bigger than these supposed condos that people are paying big money for. I don't get it. And of course, in this country, anybody who's an immigrant to this country, where do they go first? They go to Toronto to settle. So there you go. More and more people are going to the city. I mean, we're a big country. We have a lot of space. I think our government should be offering immigrants, like they used to back in the old days, in the 1800s. If you clear the land, it's yours. If you live on it for 5 or 10 years or something like that. Give that incentive to immigrants coming over. Hey, we'll give you some land here if you promise.
I don't think there's any free land anywhere anymore.
Well, probably not. Well, the government has lots of land. It's crown land, as they call it. So I don't know. What are people saying? Shelley says they made it sound like all the hassles were features to welcome you to Toronto. Yeah, I'd say that. Where did you see that, Shelley? Was that on YouTube? Derek says, I meant to be taking a train to England in a week or two, and I'm worried about whether various trains will randomly be canceled. Seems to have for lots of travel option these days at the last minute. Yeah, I was watching a YouTube video about that. And they said that was a problem in England. You know, very much the same ways they're handling transportation in this country too. So I guess it's not just us. But they're blaming it on this whole thing that they don't have enough people to manage it. They don't have the staff. Well, you know, maybe if you paid your staff or whatever, what is it with people not wanting to work anymore? You know, like,
Or are they offering the jobs back? I don't know.
well, that is what I would suspect more. They're not offering them the jobs back because they figured, well, we got rid of them because of COVID and we managed during COVID with a skeleton staff. We're saving great amounts of money, so we could still run it with more skeleton staff now, too. Yeah, right. Everything's going to hell in a handbasket. Jeannie's here. Hi, Jeannie. Cheryl says, actually, my granddaughter's learning cursive, 2nd grade in public school. I was shocked. Whoa, that's interesting. Because they stopped teaching it in the schools out here. So I don't know, maybe they have figured out that maybe kids need to learn how to write and read cursive. Like, not everything is a computer keyboard kind of a thing. Yeah, Lucy, it is a shame about Toronto because Toronto used to be considered like a great city, you know. Of course, if you listen to everybody on the city council in Toronto, it's a world-class city.
I don't know which world.
Another world that's not this one because it's not. It's not. Yeah. And there's so much potential there and they've just wasted it over the years. Diana says, we fly into Pearson approximately once a year. Immigration is sometimes a nightmare. Air Canada changed our reservation less than 12 hours after they confirmed it. Oh, yeah. That's pretty much typical. And Lucy says, some homeless are too aggressive to go to a shelter. Not sure what you mean.
Mental issues or what?
You mean, yeah. Do you mean like they cause problems kind of a thing? Like,
I mean, there's a lot of people complain the shelter system that they don't feel safe in it.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. And they don't want to go there because they get beaten up, they get their stuff stolen from them, you know. So I suppose if that's what you mean, yeah, aggressive, yeah, true. Debbie says, we're fortunate to have a really good homeless shelter where I live. I had to stay there for almost 6 months so I can vouch for it. I know how rare that is, though. Yeah, well, in Toronto, again, they just won't put the money into it. They even wouldn't open up warming centers in the wintertime for homeless people because, you know, it was going to cost the city too much money for that. Well, you know, you got to get your priorities straight. Dana says, Regina, Saskatoon are still greeting plane loads of Ukrainian refugees. Yep.
Well, I think they're still coming here, but
yeah, I think they're still coming here. We just don't hear as much about it. But I have heard about it out in your area, Dana, because what's his name? Alex on Curiosity Inc. was talking about it in his area. He's in Edmonton. This is not that bad in England.
Why did they stop cursive?
I don't know.
Well, I think it's because people don't write on paper anymore. They type everything and everything like that. Whereas cursive is really handwritten stuff, and I don't think they handwrite anymore. I think kids print everything if they do print on paper.
Yeah, any assignments that come in, at least at the high school level, are all word processed for it, which I prefer because I couldn't read most of their handwriting in the early days of my career.
I mean, the days have gone by where you hand wrote an essay and handed it in.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's just a matter of time that, well, it's already happening. I mean, they may be teaching it here and there, but eventually this generation that's coming through, they will not be able to read anything in cursive. And, well, of course, right now, a lot of them can't even tell time on an analog clock
Yeah.
or wristwatch, kind of a thing. So, it's the way things go. But, I mean, I'm not supporting that they shouldn't teach cursive, but if you think about it, if you saw something that was written in the 15 or the 1600s, most of us wouldn't be able to read it either. It is a form of cursive, but the letters were some of the letters look different than the letters we use today, like F's and R's and things like that. The way they're written, you need to be somebody who has studied how words were written, and even back then in the 1400s, 1500s, spelling had not been standardized yet. So one word could have been spelled several different ways. And when the printing press started to get used, it didn't help things, because what they did was, because ink and paper were so expensive, that they wanted to get as many letters on a line as they could. So if a word was a little too short and they had space, they'd add a few extra letters to it. Like there'd be maybe 2 or 3 F's in a row or something like that in it, just so it would fit the line because of the expense. So then eventually they got around to standardizing spelling and grammar and things like that. But yeah, so if we were to read a document from that time, we would probably be very hard pressed to figure it out too. So I guess that's the way these kids are going to go.
Yeah, I know. Like, there was a guy, he was 28 at the time, and this was about 6 years ago, at my work, and I wrote something down in script and handwriting, and he couldn't read it. He was 28. So,
oh, Brenda's here. Hi, Brenda. Rob says, Stephen, what is that is moving behind your right shoulder? 3D printer. Yeah, I have 3 of them. A Brittle Star. Yeah, I must have seen that one because I always watch his videos. He's hilarious. Dana says, my sister and brother-in-law in Brampton, Ontario are hosting their second Ukrainian family. So what's the experience like for them, Dana, with that? Walter has a friend.
Actually, she's hosting a second Ukrainian family.
But she had such a bad time with the
I know.
first one.
She had a really bad time with the first Ukrainian couple. She ended up kicking him out.
Yeah, because they were what? They were
supposed to be looking for work and stuff like that, but they weren't. They were sitting around till all hours of the night and taking showers at weird times of the night and playing games and doing stuff. They weren't doing anything. They weren't doing anything to help. And she just got really ticked off with them. So,
but now she's got
and they didn't want to do anything to learn how to speak English and things like that too. So
has she gotten the second group?
Yeah, I haven't heard anything since she's gotten the second.
Be interesting to see how that one works out.
Yeah, she may have changed her parameters a little bit, because the original couple that she had, actually it wasn't a couple, it was she had a whole family living there, like 2 kids and father, mother, and grandfather or something, and she only lives in a small house, so it was a little too much for her. Well, and she at the time didn't offer, I guess they could get a subsidy for food and stuff like that. She didn't take it, and so she was funding all the food, and it was really costing her a lot of money. So.
Well, she goes from a budget for 2 people, just her and her husband, right?
Yeah.
There. And then suddenly she's got 5 more, so there's 7 of them. Yeah. 7 people in the household to feed. Yeah, that would be an expense. And with the price of food, well, yeah, really, she should have taken the subsidy. And if it's offered, she should have taken it.
Yeah.
And she shouldn't have worried about it, because nice people finish last. And if she thought she was doing a favor,
and the other thing is, with a lot of these people that are coming, is that they are they're getting Medicare and everything else, and our medical system right now is not that great, because there's too many people. So and our infrastructure hasn't increased. So
I mean, I don't know. It's kind of between a rock and a hard place, because those people are coming from a war-torn country, not of their own choosing, and the whole bit. So we're trying to do, as Canadians, we're trying to help them out and the whole bit. But when you hear a story like what she was saying about these people basically taking advantage of her, But that's not to say that all of them that come over are
No.
that way. She just got a bad
She
lot.
just got a bad lot. She got a bad group.
So that's why I'd be interested to know how the second group works out. You know, hope it's a better experience for. Lucy says, I have. Oh, wait, back up. Oh, yeah. Okay, so Kathy says, so many requirements of what to teach now. Something had to give to be let go. Cursive, home ec, wood shop. Yeah, true. But, you know, I never trust our government anyways. When they decide to change curriculum, usually what that is they're figuring out how they can save money. So I don't know, getting rid of cursive, and they try to snowball everybody. If you've been in the teaching profession for a number of years, you know what I'm talking about. They're always changing the curriculum, and they're always making it sound like, oh yeah, this is going to be so much better for the kids and preparing them for the future and the whole bit. It's the same old bullshit every time with it. So yeah, I don't know. Dana said, my sister and brother-in-law in Brampton. Oh, okay, I read that one. Cursive will be the new code language for us oldies. Yeah, probably. There you go. Want to screw up a kid, a grandchild? Handwrite them a letter in cursive. And see, and embed in it. And if you can figure this out, there's $10 hidden somewhere. Find it. Oh, that would be kind of cruel and kind of fun. Derek says, I made some of my students handwrite something for 20 minutes on Friday, and they looked at me as if it was mad. As if I was mad. Some hadn't handwritten for over 5 years. I also can't read most of what they wrote. Well, you want to know something? I was thinking about this morning. I don't handwrite anything anymore either. I use a keyboard. My handwriting has always sucked. But I was writing something today, and I was looking at it and going, I can't even read what I'm writing. I haven't got a clue what this says on here. Doesn't help when you don't remember what you had for breakfast in the morning by lunch, either. So, you write a note to yourself and you can't read your own note and you don't remember why you wrote it. So, yeah, could be confusing. Lucy said, lots of old documents. They're very hard to read. I'm talking early 1800s. Yeah, because the writing was very different, even though it may have been cursive. Some of the writing was very, flourishes and things like that, and the way that they joined the letters up and sometimes the words, and it can look like gobbledygook. So that's us, looking at that. Think about the kids. Shelley says, spelling is no longer standardized. Any spelling seems to be okay now. I have a mug that says, I'm silently correcting your grammar. Well, there was a point. I remember teaching grade 9 English, and they passed up to high school something they'd already been doing in the elementary school. Now, this is like many years ago, like 40. And it was supposed to be exploratory. You allowed a child to write something, but you didn't correct their spelling or their grammar. You allowed them, because it was important that they express themselves over time. And if you repeat it, how to write something. I remember my English department head told me once about grammar. Get them to write a bunch of sentences using a semicolon about 25 or 50 times, and they'll know how to do it by the time they're done. No, they don't. They don't even know what a semicolon is. So that was how we taught grammar when I started to teach school. It was supposed to be absorbed through trial and error, kind of a thing. So yeah. Oh, Shirley's here. Hi, Shirley. Dan's sister has 2 fabulous families. Yeah. Well, I'm sure there's lots of them that are really nice people. I
just the lady that I know happened to get a rotten bunch. So.
Yeah. I mean, just luck of the draw. Well, we know that every society has their rotten apples, in it too. So I guess that was what she pulled. Kathy says, no more spelling books, no more daily grammar lessons. Yeah. Just looking here. Hello, Janice. New Quilting Life. Teresa says, hello, Teresa. I don't think I said hello to you. My brother and his wife hosted a Ukrainian family of 4. They had a great experience, but my sister-in-law made sure to get their groundwork done in the first week. Their SIN, health card, etc.
Yeah, like the lady that I knew, I was with her when she was arranging it because I was on a retreat with her, and she was going through and making sure that she had all the health information and everything else all settled before they moved in and everything. But it was just that these people were very lazy, and they had no intention of looking for work or doing anything like that. And they were up all hours of the night, and her husband had to work. I mean, the lady that was hosting, her husband was still working, and they were asking them to, be quiet at night and that, but they weren't. They were ignoring it. They were playing video games and watching TV till all hours of the night, and they were taking showers at weird times, and
So obviously those people were that way when they were living in
yeah.
their own home too. That was just like I said. They must have been a rotten apple because, I haven't heard
I
anybody
mean, the
else
first few
say
weeks
this.
she had them, they were really nice and everything. And then it was like they got into a routine and just went wild. And she couldn't handle it any longer. So
Yeah.
she phoned them up and phoned up whoever takes care of them and said that she couldn't handle these people any longer. So
Yeah. Dana says the first family was 2 girls, early 20s, found jobs within a couple of weeks and moved out on their own within 6 months. They still keep in touch. In the second family, a mom and a 16-year-old daughter. The mom is trying to find a job, and daughter is just enrolled in a local high school. Yeah. Shelley says helping refugees is a noble thing, but there needs to be infrastructure to help them acclimate to where they are relocated, and a way to deal with freeloaders. The legitimate ones should be helped. Yeah. I don't know. We haven't looked into this at all. So I don't know how you do it and what the regulations are around it and what the support systems are around it. I know nothing. Oh, M's here. Hi, M. Rob says his printing is horrible, but my cursive is not too bad. And Shelley says, right, but now they use text shortcuts and let spell check incorrectly correct their spelling. Yeah, true. That's technology. Nadine says, it's very interesting to listen to all this. In France, children are still learning to read and write with cursive letters. Yep. Yeah, it depends on where you are in the world. And Lucy says, I learned lots of grammar when I learned Latin. Yeah, I took Latin in university for 1 semester, 1 course, because I thought this would help, because I was going to be an English teacher. And I thought, I'd always had been told that Latin was a good thing to have because, for the roots of words and things like that. To be quite honest, I hated taking Latin. I don't remember one thing from that class in Latin. The guy who taught it was a prick to the professor. And I have never, ever, ever used it at all. So I don't know. If it helps you out, go for it. But for me, it didn't do a thing. Where did I leave off here? Computers or iPads are only accepted in class from university, not before. Oh, no. That's how our school system here in the area that I'm in. Every kid has a tablet, and they have their computers, and they actually submit all their assignments online. They don't have textbooks anymore. They read online. The textbooks are all up online, and yeah. It was what I just retired just before they started to get really into that kind of technology, and that was something I always wanted to be able to do with that. I would embrace that. I wouldn't have a problem teaching in that kind of environment whatsoever. Debbie says it says a lot about your friend Walter that they were willing to give another family a
Yeah,
chance.
they have a heart of gold. They really do.
Yeah, and they're the ones that get stomped on too. The nice people always get basically pissed on. Um, Heidi, hi Heidi. Uh, Hello. I confess that as a constant reader, I picked up most of the grammar I use from the books I read. I had to watch myself after reading Robinson Crusoe, though. Defoe had page-long sentences. Yeah, it was the style of the day when he wrote that book. It's like Victorian novels. One page is a paragraph in a Victorian novel. I know, because I love Victorian novels. I've read a lot of them. You know, Jane Austen, well, she's actually not Victorian. She's Regency, but time period. But you know what I mean. And actually, reading does help you with your grammar, that kind of thing. The more you read, actually, the kids that used to write well in my class, I always knew they were readers as well because you could tell. Derek says, I have to admit that Latin and classics have been some of the most useful classes for me, even though I ended up in science. But then I had an amazing high school teacher who brought it alive. You see, when I went to high school, they didn't teach Latin anymore. I think when I went into grade 9, they might have had one class. And then by the time I finished high school, there wasn't any Latin classes at all. And any school that I have been in as a teacher, now that Latin is definitely a dead language. They do not teach Latin at all. And actually, Derek, I would imagine, and Lucy too, that as scientists, Latin would be very useful, and Greek, I would think. Teresa says, I find it funny that every kid has a huge backpack now, but don't have to carry a ton of textbooks. Where's the fun in that? No dropping a stack of books in the hallway. Yeah.
Yeah, now they just drop their electronics and, well.
Yeah. Oh, Cheryl says, no more, my dog ate my homework. Yeah, but there's a modern equivalent to that. And I know because kids used to have to hand in their essays and that in high school to me electronically. And it would be, the power went out and I lost everything. My computer doesn't work.
My Wi-Fi doesn't work.
Yeah, my Wi-Fi didn't work. It went down. My dog jumped up on my computer and broke it. Yeah, my printer ran out of ink. Oh, that was a popular one. I couldn't print it out. And then I started doing it. They submitted it to me electronically. So that one they couldn't use anymore. But they still would come up with excuses. And that will never change. That will always happen. Lucy says, etc. is the abbreviation for etc. and the rest. Yep. Teresa says, when I took an English 101 at night school, the old English was tough, but if I read it out loud, my Frisian kicked in and a lot of works were similar. Okay, when you say old English, you mean like Anglo-Saxon English, right? Old English? Because I took old English too. Braybuff and the whole bit and that kind of thing. And it is definitely a foreign language. To try and read it, I mean, I don't know how I got through that class. Because it was difficult. And then Middle English, although it looks more like modern English still, and it's the one where you'll get lots of extra letters in things in there. Like everybody knows Chaucer and the Canterbury Tales. Well, in that one, it starts off with one April. April. Aprille is how they spelled April, the month of April, and that kind of thing. Yeah, because I was an English major, I had to take all of that stuff. Lucy says, we do use computers in English schools, but they still use pens, books, and paper. I don't know what they're doing here now. They probably still have paper and pens, of course, but I have a feeling that they probably don't use them for much more than doodling. Shelley says, I think there are some people who could spell and some who struggle. Both my kids are avid readers, but one was much better spelled than the other. Seems to be an aptitude. Well, I can tell you something. was an English teacher. I can't spell. And I'll tell you why I can't spell. Okay? When I was in grade 2, we lived in a small town east of here, and halfway through the school year, we moved to another small town further away from that town. And so I came into the middle of grade 2 in this new town. And they, in this new town, were teaching the new method for learning how to read. Phonetics. Phonetic spelling and learning all the stuff like that. I wasn't there when they started it. I never grasped it. I never got the concept. So I can't sound out words.
Phonetic works in Dutch, but it doesn't work in English.
What do you mean?
I mean, you can spell out Dutch words by phonetics. But...
Well, I never learned how to do it. I can't sound out a word. I never learned, that A is ah and E is or whatever, that kind of stuff with it. So how did I get through spelling when they had spelling tests? I would memorize the shape of the word. That's how I learned how to read. In my younger years, I had a really good memory. And I would look at a page and I would memorize the order of the letters for the word. And that's how I figured things out. To this day, I can't sound out a word. So if I trip over a name, that's why. Because I have no idea what that's supposed to sound like. And yet I was an English teacher. But as an English teacher, I learned some tricks. One, I was really good at using a dictionary. Okay. Two, I had an electronic dictionary in my jacket pocket. They came out with these back in the 80s, early 90s. And, just fit in your pocket like a small calculator. And so I just press it in and this thing would do a search and find me a whole list of words, very much like if you what Google does or things like that. So I learned the tricks, how to do that. And I would tell kids that too. I would teach them the tricks because some kids said, "Sir, how can I look it up in a dictionary if I don't know how to spell it?" I said, "Very good question. Here's what I do." "Well, that takes effort." Yes, it does. So there you go. But now with, spell checker on everything, do you need to know how to spell? Yeah, we'd like to think you should know how to spell because you may not always be able to get a spell checker.
No, that spell checker doesn't necessarily correct it the correct way.
No, and that's when you get funny things. So whatever. But you want to know something? I'm wearing a dictionary right now. My iWatch, my iPhone. That is the way of, not the future. That's what's happening right now. And that's what these kids have grown up with. So, and we can bitch and complain about and go, well, in my day, we had to do this. Well, guess what? It's not our day anymore, is it? Heaven only knows what those kids, when they get to the age of our age, what they'll be telling the younger kids. In my day, we had something called Alexa and Siri. And we just asked them and they gave us the answer. And somebody said, "Oh, wait, you mean you didn't have an implant? And it would just in your head?" Oh, out last century. Let's see here. Teresa says, yes, Anglo-Saxon, old poetry, etc. Things like Kirk for church was the same, yeah. Mary Ann says, hi, Mary Ann. My son in seminary takes a load of Latin and he loves it. Well, probably because, the Bible, religious documents, things like that, if they read them in the original or whatever, Greek, all that kind of stuff. So I could see that. Teresa says they don't sell the loose leaf paper in packs of 400 anymore. Used to stock up with 7 or 8 packs at the beginning of school year.
Yeah, now it's all copy paper.
Oh, yeah, true. Well, you can make your own loose leaf. You can have your printer print it out for you. Heidi says, just as a hobby, I always look up the translation for Latin inscriptions on buildings and mottos. I went to agricultural college and the motto was mens agitate molem, or men who work the soil. Oh, okay. Geez, you do that as a hobby, do you, Heidi? Okay, you're a lot of fun. Let's go to Heidi's. We're going to have a beer and we're going to do some Latin. Oh, sign me up. Just kidding, Heidi. Shelly says, my kids had the same teachers for first and second grade. One could spell, one could not. The bad spellers just had to work harder. Yeah. Lots of Scottish kids, Derek said, used to get words on paper strips to learn the spelling each night as homework. When we were aged 5 or 6, these strips of paper were kept in tobacco tins. Still remember the smell. Well, we had spellers. We had books, and we had to go home, and I remember my parents testing me. I'd have to study the list, and I would memorize it. That was basically how I got through the spelling tests. And they would call them out, right? You know, spell neighbor. And I'd have to do that. And if I didn't get most of them right or whatever, my parents would make me study it some more and then test me again. Which is kind of ironic because I had more education than my parents ever had now, but whatever. Teresa says, my parents were new Canadians when I was starting school. We learned spelling and grammar together. I was always proud of my parents not having the thick Dutch accent.
Oh, my parents had a good Dutch accent.
Oh, yeah.
But, and my mom learned English by reading children's books here in Canada. But she had words that she never quite grasped
Oh, the
over
meaning
time.
of? Actually, I was mentioning...
Like she used to knit a lot with 4-ply wool. And
I know what you're
she
gonna
kept
say.
calling it 4-ply wool.
4-ply wool. What are you knitting? I've got my 4-ply wool out. Okay. You're making little toys of certain type? Yeah. Hi, Jan. Shelley says, I wonder how Welsh kids learn to spell. Some of those words are crazy. Yeah, true. Oh, hi, Iser. Yeah, wow, someone else who learned to read by rote. I could never understand phonetics. Yep, that's me too. Spell check can make some embarrassing mistakes. Yeah, can be funny. Though the spell checkers are getting better.
Yeah, they're
With
pretty good,
it.
actually.
They are getting better. So, you know, AI is taking over. And Derek says, yeah, same with Gaelic. Lots of consonants. Never got the hang of it. Yeah, I remember when we were in Ireland and they wrote the signs in English and in, well, I guess Gaelic is Irish, right? Or is it whatever they call it? Or is it Celtic? Whatever. But, I mean, I don't even know how you pronounce the words because even the letters look weird with that. So, yeah. So, anyways, yep, lots of things happening there. That's hysterical, Walter. I'll laugh every time I use well now. Yep. Make sure you get the 4-play. Yeah. For some of us, it may be the only 4-play we'll ever get. So there you go.
Of course, there's always how my aunt used to pronounce Coke.
Oh, oh, that was so embarrassing.
I don't even have to tell you how.
No, well, you know, she didn't really say Coke. And we were in a restaurant. They came over here. This is many years ago. And we took them out for lunch at a restaurant in the Eaton Center. And his aunt wanted a Coke. And
that came out.
And the young guy that was the waiter was very embarrassed. And she was insisting.
And she was not too silent. She was really loud.
She wanted a large Coke. Well, don't we all? But... Heidi says, I just like to learn things. I always say it's a good day when I get to learn something new. That also applies to cooking, though, so it's not so difficult to put up with me. Yeah. I agree, Heidi. It's always good to learn something new. I learn something new every day. All the time. Usually because I've done something completely wrong and Walter tells me. And so I learn from that. He likes...
I don't know. Do you learn?
I don't know. You like to point out my mistakes on everything. Yeah. Like I said to the group yesterday on the pop-up soda, it's why I call my channel the Idiot Quilter, because that comes from Walter. Because anytime I made a mistake, I go, oh, I think I did something wrong. You go, well, you're an idiot. Yeah, very complimentary.
That when my aunt said that, I said, Coke, not the other one.
I don't think she got it.
No,
That's what I said. I said, yeah. You did. Whatever. It was hilarious. Bit embarrassing, but hilarious. So, now next Wednesday is the first Wednesday of the month, so we have Craft and Chat. So that's April the 5th, and it'll start at 1 p.m. Now that day, for those of you that are doing the Sewing with Stephen and Stephanie on Wednesday mornings, that starts at 9 Eastern Time, and that'll probably run until about noon. Then we'll break for lunch, and then you can come back on if you're doing the craft and chat with the craft and chat link. However, you have to use the right links. I sound like a broken record. I keep telling people, read the little thing that tells you what the link is for. It says what it's for.
Now, do you actually have it? So maybe you made a mistake. And
No, it's pick a finger. That's the one. No, it's right there. It's very clear. I know how someone could get mixed up because there's usually several links in the show notes, right? But they do tell you. So the reason that if you join up with us in the morning for Sewing with Stephanie and Stephen, why we have to finish it off and can't just continue in that is because there will be people who won't be part of that, but want to be part of the Craft and Chat, so they'll be coming in on the Craft and Chat link. Anyways, it's not a biggie. I'll explain it again Wednesday morning to anybody that's in with the Sewing with Stephanie and Stephen. I think we should change that to Sewing with S&S or something. It's easier to say. Sewing with the SS. Oh no, that's totally different kind of thing there. Yeah. Shelley says, I'll have to miss Wednesday. I'll be up to my eyeballs in grandkids. Send them back to their parents. You've come to that age in your life where you should enjoy it. I know you like to be with your grandchildren. Fine. I'm not upset. Really, I'm not. No, I'm not. Lucy says, my daughter, who could read very young, never bothered to learn her spelling. She just knew them. She asked the teacher, age 5, which morning she meant, morning or morning. Oh, clever kid, when the test was held. My parents were from the American South, Iser says. Between them, living in Brooklyn with a dozen different accents. Amazing I learned to speak anything intelligently. Yeah, accents is a totally different thing. Jan says, the man who doesn't read instructions. Oh, Jan, don't you be giving me that. No, you don't, Jan. You don't. This is coming from a woman who only just recently got going on her embroidery machine after she's had it for how long? You. I'm talking about you. Oh, Shelley says they're going to see them. Okay. Cheryl says, I won't be there Wednesday. Have to take Mom for a doctor's appointment. Okay, well, these are things that have to be done. Life gets in the way. Oh, Lucy had to go. Okay, bye, Lucy. All right, so we got some comments from this week's videos that I thought we'd look at. One here says, sorry for another comment. Love what Walter made. Do you think he would share the recipe? I forgot to tell you about that. That is for your Dutch tart.
Oh.
Wasn't really a good recipe, though.
No, I didn't really care for the recipe that much, so I don't.
Yeah, so I
wouldn't recommend it.
No.
I just got it from the internet. I just looked it up for a Dutch. What do they call it?
I don't know. What do they call it? Foreplay.
Apple tart. Dutch apple tart.
Yeah, so just
there's lots of recipes online, and that's what I did. I picked one. So
yeah, that one we weren't really too happy about.
No,
with it. It wasn't horrible. It wasn't the best. Julie likes the print on your shirt.
Yeah, it's City Lights or whatever from
Cityscape or City Lights from Northcutt.
Yeah, it's you probably can't get a hold of it that easy.
No, anymore. It's probably done. I made a quilt using that fabric actually. So if I put Walter up against the quilt, he'll disappear.
Yeah. Dapper. Oh, Jan.
Both
Dapper.
lads look dapper today, huh? Yeah, it is Jan. You never can take her seriously. So
what's dapper mean? I've never heard of that before.
You have so. Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's too old for me.
Yeah, really. Okay, another comment is really neat 3D. The senior center that is housed in the same building as one of the branches of our county library. The librarian gave us a demo of their printer, and we each were allowed to select a cookie cutter. The librarian made them for each of us since it took too long. I had a teacup cookie cutter made. Okay, I printed this one out because I want to give you a warning about making utensils or anything that's going to touch food with a 3D printer. There is a filament that is food grade acceptable, but most filaments are not. Now, something like a cookie cutter, you're not leaving the food in it. Basically, you're just cutting with it. So your chances of it causing you any harm are probably fairly slim.
But I'd still think twice about
But
using
yeah,
it.
I have never made a cookie cutter with the filaments I use because I've never made anything that's going to touch food. There are 3D models for making like coffee cups or plastic glasses or things like that, or beer mugs and stuff like that. Nope, I wouldn't take the chance because unless you've got for sure food grade
Like if you
filament,
were to make a container and you put food in it,
like cookies
I
or
would
something.
I would line it with a plastic bag or something like that.
Yeah. Also, because you don't know what chemicals could leach out of it. Now, some plastic, what I use is actually almost a biodegradable one. It's a derivative of cornstarch, actually, they say. But there's got to be other additives in it because they colorize it and do give it other properties like shiny surfaces to it and things like that. Also, it's not just a question of using food grade filament, but your printer, the head of your printer, where the filament goes through, the heating element is contaminated by those filaments as well. So although you might have a food grade filament, if your printer's already used regular filament in it, it's contaminated. So you really need to have a 3D printer that is dedicated to printing nothing but food grade filament with it. So yeah, I'd be really worried about that. Debbie says, so we are rudely stupid or stupidly rude. Maybe rupit. I love that expression, rupit. I wish more people would take a moment to breathe and reconsider before being rupit. Yeah, when we were talking about, ignorance and that of people. But I like the term, rupit. That's good. Rude and stupid together. That's why I put that one up, because I kind of thought that was kind of neat. Another person said, in regards to kids doing stupid things, problem. I believe it's worldwide. It's not necessarily a gang or a group getting them to do these wrong things. In saying that, peer pressure is a big thing these days in comparison to when we were kids. I have 4 adult children and 13 grandchildren. My children were brought up with manners. I was a tyrant for that. And they knew the expectations for behavior were. Also, what is right and wrong. Here in Australia, quite some years ago, they publicized the Children's Bill of Rights, the worst thing they could have done. Now the government is, in their infinite wisdom, has outlawed discipline, e.g. a slap on the butt or back of the leg. Now we have kids running amok and ending up in jail by the time they are 16. It's really sad that people in the ivory towers can make parents too scared to discipline their kids. My kids got a good smack when they needed it, and none of them have psychological or physical problems. Yes, some parents don't know when to stop when it comes to smacking or other, which then becomes abuse. I was always one for being completely honest with my kids, whether it was money, sex, drugs, or the law. So far, there has been no major problems, and I don't anticipate any. That said, they are now adults and run their own lives, so who knows? Yes, the behaviors that children have are due to what the parents do and what boundaries they set and enforce. Yeah, and this whole thing about the Children's Bill of Rights, so we have the Young Offenders Act in Canada, which definitely needs to be redone, because kids are smart today, and not in a way that we want them to be smart. They know what the consequences are in the law for certain actions, and they know how far they can go, or how much protection they will get if they're under the age of 16 or whatever with it. And that's not right. And then this thing about, spanking, strapping, and that, yeah, all the goody two shoes out there got right on the bandwagon. You can't hit a kid. Well, you can, as long as you don't leave marks. But there are ways. I mean, occasionally you back over them with a car. Oops, didn't see the little thing. I'm sorry. Well, yes, I am being facetious, but you know what I mean. I don't agree with physical violence to discipline. However, just like the individual wrote this, I used to get spanked. We got the belt. We got something worse. And now you are going to not like to hear this. because this is going to shock you. My father used to, well, he threatened us more with it than used it, but there were a few times when he used it, and it was a cat and nine tails. And what is a cat and nine tails? Well, it's basically a torture device. It's a whip. But it's the one my father had used to be one that was used on him as a kid by his mother, my grandmother, and he inherited it. And what it was an old leather strap that used to hang on the side of a barber's chair for sharpening the straight blade for giving men shaves. You know, you've seen them in old movies, you know, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Cut down into finer strips. So it was basically like a whip. And we got hit with that on the rear end. You only need to be hit with it once. Now, my father didn't let into us like, you know, like he was a dominatrix or anything like that, with the kind of thing. But it was still enough to make you smarten up.
And all they had to do was threaten you.
Oh, yeah. My mother kept it in the kitchen drawer where she kept her aprons and her tea towels. And if we were acting up at the table or whatever, she'd say, "Who wants it first?" And she'd reach in the drawer and whip this thing around. Until one day when she did that, and I grabbed it out of her hand and I said, "You want it first, don't you?" We never saw it again. It was gone. I think I was 16 by then, or maybe 14, something like that. But it was more or less the threat of it than anything else. And my parents never really used it. It was used on us, but not on any kind of regular basis. And I always loved the expression, you know, that parents used to use it. This is going to hurt me more than it's going to hurt you. Then why don't you give it to me and let me see?
My mom has had a similar situation. My mom used to do it with a yardstick and threatened me with the yardstick. And one day I grabbed the yardstick.
I think that's when parents realized
that, oh, they're a little too old.
A little too old for this now. Yeah, kind of a thing. But, you know, the other extreme of that is the ones that allow the little buggers to express themselves. You know, the little kid, like 4-year-old or 3-year-old in the store screaming, "I want it, I 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 want it." That's when you want to walk up and go boom in the tops.
Teresa, I got the strap in elementary school by the principal.
Oh, you were a bad boy.
And not really, it wasn't. I got it because it's kind of a long story. My parents lived next to a school fence, and my parents we were supposed to walk around to get home, and the shortcut would be climbing the fence. Well, in elementary school, we weren't allowed to climb the fence. So my mother was in a hurry to leave somewhere, and she said, "Hurry up, climb the fence." And I said, "Well, I can't do it today because of the principal. If they catch me, I'm in trouble." So she says, "I don't care. You climb the fence." So I climbed the fence. And then that Monday, I got called into the principal's office for climbing the fence. And so he gave me the strap for doing that. My parents were really upset because they're the ones that were telling me to climb the fence.
Yeah, so. Yeah, but these ones now, you hear it all the time. You just go into any grocery store or any store around, and there'll be some kid in there just screaming at the top of their lungs like someone's strangling them, and somebody should be. You know, my father used to use the expression, my parents used to say, "Stop your crying or we'll give you something to cry about." That was one of the favorites as well. Let's see here. I went up too far on things. Just trying to catch up here on the chat. Julie says, "Remember the dolls called Dressy Bessie and Dapper Dan? They taught kids how to tie shoelaces, work zippers, and button up a coat."
No, I don't remember those.
Remember that. I don't know if we had those in our country. I don't know. And Nellie says, I babysitting once a month, and my daughter live with me. She babysits once a month, and her daughter lives with her. Oh, okay. Gotta remember, Nellie speaks French. So, neat and trim and dressed in appearance, typically used of a man.
She's explaining dapper
Oh, okay, fine.
instead of diaper Dan.
Well, that's a different thing. Dana said, I once got my mouth washed out with Dove, 99.9% pure, for sticking my tongue out at my mom. Yeah,
No, my mom never did that.
I remember once, my mother, it was in the summer, I was probably 7 or 8 years old. We lived in a small little village kind of a thing. It was summertime, the street lights hadn't come on yet or something. My mother called me in. I was out playing with the other kids, and she says, it's time for you to come in now. And I turned around and I says, you can go to hell with it. Oh, bad thing to say. My mother chased me for a block. She caught me, and it was not good. With that, you don't tell me what. And she just, I'll never forget that. She was only probably at that point. My mother was probably only in about 25 years old or whatever, so she was pretty fast on that one. Yep, never did that again. Nope. Derek says, I have to admit that I went to Catholic primary school and some of the nuns were a bit too handy with the belt of their hands. My parents had it far worse than me when they were young and got the belt. My father tells the story, or used to tell a story of when he was taking piano lessons at the convent. And sister, I don't know, let's just call her Sister I Want to Beat the Crap Out of You. Or maybe one of the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, I don't know. She was a real stickler for having your hands in the right position. And my dad didn't. He let his wrists drop. She had a ruler. And she'd bash his knuckles all the time. Like, put those up there. He didn't like piano lessons. I don't think he lasted long in that. No wonder he took up the trombone.
Well, I had a teacher that used to walk up and down the aisles, and they'd have a yardstick and slam it on somebody's desk to wake them up.
Oh, I like that. I used to do that one.
And one day, he slammed down the yardstick and right across somebody's hands. He was pretty.
I had a science teacher that did that when I was in grade 7 too. He banged that yardstick right down, and what made you just drop a load when that happened. Couldn't do that today.
No.
In a classroom.
Nope. In fact, when I was a little kid and went to grade school, you were supposed to line up after recess to get back into the school. And if you didn't line up, if you were a little bit out of line, I had teachers pull your ears to get you back into line.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Hey, well,
can't do that now.
No, well, it'd be easier, though, because with those things they put in their ears, the spacers, you know they're hanging on to. Yeah. Teresa says, I've been chased up the stairs with a plastic baseball bat toy by a parent. I pushed too far. In grade school, we still had the strap as deterrent and a 300-pound principal to use it. Yeah. Yeah, well, I did when I was in elementary school. The strap was still in effect as well. I never got it, but I was a good kid with it. But, I remember because in grade 6, the school only went up to grade 6, and there was the principal's office was right next to a classroom for the grade 6s. He taught the grade 6s as well. He and another teacher. And when someone got in trouble and he took them in the office, you could hear the strap.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Oh, yeah. And we'd all be there. We'd all cringe. And then the kid would come in, and the hands down here, and tears down the eyes. It was cruel. It was cruel. Oh, those were good old days. Really. Marcia says, I raised 5 kids that got spanked occasionally. I don't think there's anything wrong with a good old fashioned
My mom just
spanking.
sort of said that. She didn't like to do it, but she said she got to a point where she didn't know what else to do.
Well, yeah. But, I mean, there's a fine line to, you got to know when to stop. Kind of a thing too. As somebody's
and
there.
My mom always said never hit around my head.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. Yeah. Debbie says we got the belt or willow switch. If I ever took it away from my parents, I'm not sure I would have survived. Yeah. Well,
it depends on how old you are when you do that.
And you can always fall back on the thing. Well, I'll be picking your home, and I did. How Heidi says, that's a leather strap. A cat o' nine tails was a whip with a handle, 9 long straps of leather used for punishment, horse whips, bull whips, never again. Heidi, it had 9 straps on it. It was not maybe an official one, cat and nine tails. Actually, a cat and nine tails also had knots in each of the things, not this one. But that's what they called it. And it doesn't really matter what you call it. It hurt like the bejesus. So, yeah. Teresa, so when your kids run into traffic, you're supposed to reason them out of it. Nope, you grab them and teach them a lesson. Yep. Well, you know, if they run into traffic, get hit by a car, they won't do that again, will they? Maybe. Brenda says, my mother used a yardstick to hit us. We would call the dog, and if the dog was near us, she didn't try to spank us as the dog would growl. She would backhand us sometimes. Yeah. Pets are a good thing. Diana says, my mom went to the kitchen and got a metal spoon. I'm talking about a huge ladle-like spoon. That really hurt on our backside. Our dad never raised a hand or threatened us. It was always our mom. Oh, my mother would threaten us with, you wait till your father gets home. And that was enough. That was enough. Now I realize that was a strategy because they knew the fear of my dad finding out that we had done something wrong, and my mother using that threat meant that they didn't have to do anything more. That had us, you know, all already wrapped up. And then my father would come and speak to us about it, but he didn't do anything. He didn't hit us or anything like that. But so we thought he was being really generous and great because he did. You know, I think that was all part of the plan. With that,
Of course, I got to the point where I knew enough that I got them to be able to cool off enough that I wouldn't get it. I'd run into the bathroom and shut the door and pull the drawer out in front of the door, and they wouldn't be able to get into the bathroom. So I waited long enough for them to coax me out, and then I'd negotiate with them. Not
yeah.
And then my dad got the bright idea to bolt the drawer shut,
Yeah.
so that it wouldn't open. So I couldn't do that. But then I got a screwdriver and unbolted it.
You were evil.
Yeah, I know.
You were an evil child. I think I'd hit you too. Jeannie, Jenny, we were told,
Ginny, like Minnie.
Ginny. I just have a heart. Gladys says, we were told children should be seen and not heard. Yeah, always heard that one too. We never had the wait till your father gets home. Mom was swift with the wooden spoon. I think my mother didn't want to break a nail. Julie says, my sister had a Mr. Spoon come out when my preschooler nephews were not listening to their mama. Mr. Spoon. Teresa says, I like my brother's technique. He would make the child lay across his lap and ask him how many spanks he needed. All 4 grew up successfully. None. That would have been my answer. Derek says, my poor mother always struggled with reading and writing and got the cane in her hand so often. These days, she would be diagnosed as dyslexic. She had a white scar across her hand until she passed away. Yeah, they used to do things like that. Yeah, Heidi, it was scary. Yep, there's no two ways about it.
Like writing with your left hand and stuff.
Oh, yeah, like my brother used to get disciplined in school because he was a lefty. And my grandmother, she would try to force him to write with his right hand all the time. But that was because a left-handed person, that was supposed to be, you know, that was in league with the devil. You were possessed if you wrote with your left hand. Yeah. Okay, crazy people. In fact, Diana says, that sounds like we all got the strap or stick growing up. That's the reason why we all grew up to be wonderful adults. Yeah, that's our story, and we're sticking to it with it all. But anyways, so next week is Easter. Okay, and I don't know what your plans are, but our plans are we're going to my sister's for dinner. So Stephen and Walter Live will be on 1 hour earlier than usual. Instead of at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we'll be on at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time because my sister wants us over to her place by 4:30, and she lives about a 25-minute drive, 20-minute drive away from us and everything. So it'll probably be a shorter one too. Now I can hear you all cheering as we say that, but you're still here, you know. So yeah, so it'll probably only run from about 3 p.m. to about 4 p.m. next week with that. And yeah, so that was all the questions and the comments that I thought were interesting to share with everybody today, in case you didn't read them or whatever. And yeah, I don't know anything else was coming up this week. We already know Stephanie, sewing with Stephanie and Stephen, craft and chat. Don't hold me to the pop-up sew day. It may happen, it may not happen. I don't know. I have a house to clean. Already started. I got a quilt to quilt. I got other quilts to sew. What exciting things do you have planned next week? Sleep?
I have to finish your shirt.
Yes, you do. You have to finish the shirt. But anyways, okay. So I guess that's it. So hope everybody has a good week. Thanks for joining us today. Go out, beat a child senseless if you feel like it. Or reason with them, whatever is your priority. And we'll see you next week at some point in time, I'm sure. Okay. See you all later. Say goodbye, Wolf.